this month, again, we have fantastic numbers with us. So already we have 120 people with us. So say, I think it was 270 that registered to attend. So I am always so grateful. So I just want to say thank you always for giving me your time and enthusiasm and energy every month. Because as I said before, without you, there isn't a coaching conversation. So thank you for your continued support. It truly is appreciated. And when you come along and when you engage, it means that we get more interesting guests because we get people that want to join us on coaching conversations. So please spread the word. Spread the word to other people who are in your industry, other coaches in training, people who are interested in coaching, because it is open to all. We're a very sort of inclusive space here. Okay. So today, to your question before we get started, because I feel today's session is a really important one on lots of levels. So I want to ask you all before we get started, and I'm going to get you to respond in the chat box. How focused and committed do you want to be in respect of your level of engagement to today's conversation? Where 0 is, well, I'm probably going to be multitasking throughout the session, so I'll only have half an ear on the session. And 10 is, I'm going to be 100% focused because this is an area that I am truly interested in. So on a scale of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10, please do let me know what your level of commitment is for today's coaching conversations. You can see lots of 10s coming up. Whilst we have that number, and I have no attachment, whether you are a 0 or whether you're a 10, you're an adult, you decide your level of engagement. But what I'm going to say to you all is, regardless of the number that you have put in there, because we all have different things going on in our lives, I want to really challenge you to do what you need to do to have that level of commitment. It may be moving your phone to one side. It may be shutting a door. Whatever it is that you need to do to ensure that you can sustain that level of engagement throughout, I want to challenge you to be able to do that so that you can really fully enjoy our guest tips today. Now, today's session is really going to be supporting and building on what we started to look at last month. And I did it last year as well. And I committed to having a set number of guests who can support you in building your business, not just expanding in your knowledge. And so this guest we have been sort of planning to have on board for over a year. She's a really busy lady. You're going to get lots of tips and lots of ideas today. And the other thing about our guest is that she does work in partnership with us here at the Coaching Academy to support coaches and coaches in training to set up their business. Huge amount of background in design, and expertise. I'm going to let her sort of introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her background. So I'm going to sort of dive in and welcome the wonderful Liz Ellery. Liz, it's so lovely to have you here. We've been talking about it for a really long time. I mean, it's well over a year when we've sort of set the date, and I'm so glad that now our diaries have aligned and actually we can come together. So thank you. I really appreciate the fact that you're here with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're so welcome. Liz, what I tend to do on the beginning of every conversation, of coaching conversations, is really just ask our guests just to share a little bit sort of about their sort of backgrounds. Now, I'm really excited because I know that you have been really successful in supporting coaches to have beautifully designed websites. But can you just share a little bit about your journey into websites and brand designs? And double-headed question coming up, those coaches who are coaches in training. Also, what inspired you to specialize in creating these really authentic visual brands for coaches and entrepreneurs?
Yeah, okay. So first of all, I do want to say I'm actually in Barcelona right now. I'm staying with my friend, and the beauty of having our own businesses, right? So I kind of wish I had a background like Gary and Rian right now, but I'm in my friend's space. So normally, as being a branding and web designer, I'd have a much prettier background, but I'm in my friend's flat. So it is what it is. So my journey began is I studied fashion design at university, and I had a 10-year career in fashion design. And when I first started there, we appeared on Mary Queen of Shops, and which is like a huge show in the UK on BBC Two. And overnight, our website crashed, and I found myself becoming a website designer. And I was didn't really want to be doing this for the first half of my career there. And then all of a sudden, I wanted to do more website design than fashion design. And the boss that I worked for was quite a small company, high end, sold in Harrods, Saks Fifth Avenue, and places like that. And I was there at the cusp of online shopping. And all of the retail people behind the scenes would get to see my boss, who was this like vibrant personality. And they kind of loved her, and she was a reflection of the clothes. So when we started going online, I saw the development of personal branding and how important it was, the character behind the business and the clothing. And I just saw how important that was. So that's kind of partly why I really enjoy personal branding and getting people's personality out and like selling your product. And that's really important. And then towards the end of my time in my career, I felt like there was something lacking, and I felt like I was coasting in life. And I met a woman at one of our sample sales who was in finance, and all my friends were creative. And she said to me, "You need to read this book." And it was called "You Are a Badass" by Jen Sincero. And I feel like someone on here will have read this book. And it basically changed my life. And I was like, oh, I can do and be anything I want to be. And it sort of started this journey where I started a business selling inspirational phone cases with quotes on them, and I got them made. And I was in Cosmopolitan magazine, not on High Street, the Sunday Times magazine. And what I enjoyed about creating this business wasn't selling products, it was creating the brand. So at this point, Jen Sincero, the author, came to the UK, and I said to her, I met her at a lunch that a friend of hers was hosting. I said, I think I need a coach. I want to start my own business, and this is not what I want to do, but I don't know what I want to do. And at this lunch, there was a personal branding photographer, and I used to do photography sometimes at the fashion shoots. So I was like, well, I can do that because I'm really good at getting people's personality out with the photos. And then I started thinking, when I was looking for a coach, I didn't emotionally connect with any coaches that I was Googling locally to me. And I thought, well, I could help these people like connect straight away through like imagery and making sure that they've got the copyright, because I was also doing email marketing and conversion with copy and stuff, and making sure that you get your personality across. So all of these things sort of blended into one. And I got coaching with Jen Sincero's friend, who was a coach. I'll show you some of her work in a little while that I've created. And I just went on this path, and I lived in London. And with being interested in personal development, I just felt like I wanted to be more in nature. So during the pandemic, I moved to the Cotswolds. So I now live in the middle of rural, countryside with like a farm next door, 3 other houses. I'm a bit of a hermit, go for walks like every day, and I love it. And I love my business. And I think you'll find some web designers just like to get the heads down, not really have so much interaction with their clients. But for me, personal development is such a passion of mine that I love all of the coaches that I work with. That's why I mainly work with coaches, is because I want to hear their stories, and that helps me design. And I'm also passionate about, just them and like us becoming friends, which is generally what I do. So yeah, that's why I work with coaches. Like, I love you guys. So
And I 100% in alignment with that, because you came to me very highly recommended and you helped with my rebrand and new website a couple of years ago. And yeah, you do truly get to know your clients. And yeah, I was very impressed. So yeah. What I love about what you just said is how you've pulled out various sort of strengths within your sort of career, in fashion and design, and sort of your passion, and you knew that there was some sort of golden thread that sort of runs sort of through that, which has brought you to sort of where you are today. I mean, really a really successful business, and you're absolutely right. You said right at the top about that the moment you're in Barcelona, you know, with your friend who, you know, also was in fashion design, and you're right, we now live in an environment where that flexibility allows us to be able to run our businesses from wherever we are. So having that website to be able to connect in with our clients is probably more important now, than it ever was. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, you know, that's why I started this, was because I didn't connect with any of the coaches' websites that I saw locally. And I just thought I can do that. Because as well, I'm quite spiritual with my personal development. So I'm an empath and I'm very intuitive. And I feel like, even though I'm a web designer, I feel like I'm very good at teasing the person's personality out and making their online store, their online shop, or not shop, but storefront, whatever you want to call it, like is the reflection of who they are. And I think that's what I really want to help people do today on our call, and with any of the questions that you're asking me, trying to help you just keep on coming back to that, like the connection that you make when you meet somebody in person and you, like, they get to know you. You want that to come across on your website, whether you're talking to corporates or, you know, not corporate people. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't, just because it's a corporate style, you know, they're still human beings and you want to connect with them somehow.
Yeah, 100%. Let's dive into, you sort of mentioned a little bit about you. How would you say that your intuitive sort of approach to design really sort of reflects the energy and the essence of your clients? And, you know, if you have any examples of that where you've made a significant sort of impact, you know, I'd love to sort of hear or see that.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that I ask, so how, when you work with me, and actually I know a few of my website designer friends do this as well, is they get their clients to create a Pinterest board. And I've got a workshop which I can share at the end of how to do this properly, where you do this work, you create this Pinterest board with all images that you're attracted to and stuff like this. And it's about teasing out what feels most relevant to you. And when you're working with, like, on your website, and you're wanting to, trying to think of the word, like put these images and the essence of who you are, like, onto the website, it can be quite difficult when you're just looking at all these images. So you also want to ask yourself questions, like in a questionnaire that I'll send, which will be, how do you want your clients to feel when they land on your website? So when you're talking about the intuitive style, it's the feeling that you want them to get. So if you want your clients to feel like passionate and like excited to work with you, and like bold, and that you're like an expert in your field, you might want to use stronger colors that are quite punchy and not too fussy. Now, if you are wanting your clients to feel calm and like nurtured when they're on your website, you might not go for like bold reds. You might go for like softer, more, not necessarily pastel, but just softer colorways. So that's what I would say a lot, is getting to the feeling and the crux of what you're trying to do. And if you are trying to talk to corporate people as well, is like intuitively, like, who are you? You'll know who you're speaking to. Like, are you going to be speaking to the HR department, and they're the ones that are going to be landing on your website? And how do you want, how do we talk to them? Rather than if you are talking to the leaders themselves. I am going to share something here because I think this will help with the intuitive style and like getting your personality across. So, I've just closed my tab that I was really prepped for. Sorry. Okay. I love Canva. Even though I'm a designer, I can use Photoshop. I just find Canva is great. So, Sharon, the reason how we connected was through one of my clients that had come through the coaching academy, and that her name was Lee Griffith from Sunday Skies. Now, this was her Pinterest board, and when she created this, I have some clients that just drop all of their imagery in one space, and then you've got the clients like Lee and myself personally too, where she organized it into a more cohesive look, where she had all of her photo inspiration, logos, and visual ID. So I've done a screenshot and put them into a file here. So you can sort of see this is the feeling that Lee wanted to create for her website. And from conversations that we had, and these are conversations you can have yourself with yourself and journaling, is like, how do I, for instance, with Lee came from a corporate background. I think it was in the NHS, and she wanted to not be so confined like she was, and it to be all perfect. And she wanted things to feel organic, and she was gravitating towards organic shapes and more colorful things. And she's got a really vibrant personality, but also a bit softer. So when I saw this board here, these colors here, I wasn't as attracted to them from the conversations that we'd had of how she wanted it to feel. And like I was more attracted to these organic shapes, maybe than more like blocky shapes. So then what I would do is I would go into Photoshop and I would sort of play around with the colors, take some of the images from Pinterest, and you can do this in Canva too. I also took Lee's photos here. So when you're having a photo shoot, from these images that you've created in your Pinterest board that intuitively felt right to you, and what my suggestion as well is to like batch, just pin loads of images in Pinterest and then create a little folder where your favorite images go. So these particular ones here were my favorite shapes that were on there. And then we had a sort of color theme here. And then when we chose the location of Lee's shoot and also the clothes that she wore, we made sure that they went with that as well. And the highlight sort of graphic that we used with these squiggly squares here, squiggly lines. And then this is like a screenshot of some of the images of her website. And when you look on Lee's website now, you'll see that it's changed slightly, but she's kept lots of these signature things, because as a coach, I work with a lot of coaches that are like me, like perfectionists. You've got ones that are kind of will just sort of DIY it, which is perfectly, you do what you feel works best for you. And then you've got clients that just want everything perfect from the beginning and having their strong brand started. So she's now changed a lot of who she's talking to. The branding still stayed the same because it's her and her values and her personality. But you'll find that like her messaging's changed because she's now she's got more focused on who she's speaking to. And when you are starting, you'll find that over the years you develop that. I'm just going to quickly show you this other client. So this was the client, the coach that I got my first coaching with, that was Jen Sincero's friend. So I designed her first website, which was a little bit more like lots of other people's coaching's websites, and beautiful photographs and very grounding colors, because she's very earthy and like in tune with nature. But then she was like, I want to be more speaking as a thought leader. I don't want to be speaking to lots of people. I want to be like, or like have lots of courses and stuff. I want to be speaking on stages and be seen as a real expert in my field. So she's very into nature, but she's also quite a hippie. And I created this vision board for her and lots of Stevie Nicks. And one of her things is like finding the pearl in the oyster and like opening things up. And so what I did for her website was like just these really bold, simple photo shoot, like in a photo studio style images. And then like this fleur-de-lis shape was like prominent through it all, but we had like these bold fonts and it just like sort of said straight away, wham, what she did. And it was very simple and very toned down compared to her first site. And then we had this quirky pearl on her contact page. So yeah, I just thought I would share that with you just so you can see how to intuitively like ask yourself questions, how you want people to feel, like what background you've maybe come from and you want to move away from so that you're in your more personality and you can still be professional whilst being colourful. And people are attracted to that.
Well, and I really love that. We know how sort of powerful sort of vision is. You know, people that do vision boards within coaching, you know, sort of know that sort of that power that has. And creating a sort of a Pinterest vision board to really get the right feel for your website is incredibly powerful, because you might, you know, think that's what you want, and then when you see it and you start to play with it, it really starts to sort of grow and manifest into something that really aligns with your sort of your vision and your goals and stuff. How important is it for you to understand the client's vision? So if you were working with a coach, how important is it for you to understand your client's vision and goal before you sort of start working on them with their sort of branding or their website design?
Yeah, it's really important. So, like I said to you earlier about like, I really want to get to know my clients and more because like I like making new friends and stuff. So I will have like a really long conversation with them that's not just about like what colors do you like and what you were attracted to. It's about why did you start your business? Like why are you passionate about it? And I find that I get so much knowledge and great little tidbits from this. So when you really speak to your designer, if you do decide to work with a designer, and we can talk about DIYing it or working with a designer, it's like the more you talk about things and you share who you are, they get a sense of who you are and like how to put that on your website rather than you just saying, well, I want pinks and blues. And then if you're talking about all of this and I'm like, but you keep on talking about how much you love nature and that's why you started this business, and that's not really that doesn't feel quite congruent. And how would you feel about doing this? Or what else would I say with it? Like, it also helps me personally when you have that conversation with the designer about why you're starting. It's a lot easier when you give copy to a designer, because you might, and I would always ask your designer this question: do you help any with copy? And I find if your designer's been around for a few years, they've done a lot of websites, so they'll know what works and what doesn't work. And I've had a client recently, I can show you an example of her website. She had this copy that I was like, this doesn't sound like you. It's like you're writing how you think that person wants to be spoken to, and or spoke, you know, like how you think they want you to speak. And it's like, but this sounds like really jargony. And I was like, did you use ChatGPT for this? And she's like, yeah, maybe a little bit. And I was like, yeah, okay. It doesn't sound like you. So do be aware of that as well with ChatGPT. Sometimes it's like repetitive things and you're like, just swear I've just read that up there. And yeah, so that's why it's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, AI is a great tool, but I think we have to use it wisely, right? You know, because I think it's, you know, the amount of stuff I've read, posts, LinkedIn posts, websites, blogs, you can tell when it's been AI generated. So yeah, so be aware of that, everybody. Okay, so let's talk platforms because, and congratulations, by the way, because I know that you are one of the, what's the title for Squarespace? You're one of their sort of master creators or
Yeah,
something.
I got asked this year, invited to be a Squarespace leader. So that was exciting because last year I gave they invited me to New York to talk at their annual Creators Summit. And I gave a talk on intuitive web design. So yeah, and then this year they asked me to be a leader, so it's very exciting.
Which is great because they're using your expertise to support other Squarespace creators. So there are lots of different types of platform. As we all know, there are loads out there. You specialize in Squarespace.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit more about why you sort of chose Squarespace, but also how you sort of advise your client on choosing the one that's right for their needs.
Yeah. So when I was working in fashion design, at one point I think I wanted to be a print designer. So in my spare time, I designed a portfolio using Squarespace. And when I said I designed the websites at my old fashion business, I just did it in Photoshop. And then we had like a total tech team, offsite tech team that built it in WordPress. And WordPress is a very complex website builder. There's lots you can do, and there's all these plugins. But like my friend said recently, sometimes these plugins don't speak to each other, and you've got to back up lots of things. And it's just not very intuitive in the back end. It's quite complex to look at. And I'm somebody that deals with websites, and whenever we would look at it, I'm like, I'm not touching this. I don't want to, I'm going to break something. I don't know what I'm doing. So when it came to designing my portfolio, I sort of was Googling, I found Squarespace, and why I like Squarespace was because it's so easy to use. And I'm not I'm not super techie person just because I'm a web designer. I'm about like the feeling and the brand. And I can make that happen in Squarespace because it's easy to use. It's a drag and drop system. So you just sort of like add there's like a little button on the page that you're creating, and it says add an image, add some text or whatever. So that you press add, and then you just sort of drag and drop it and move it around like you would in Canva. It's so easy to use. So that's why I use it. You also have in Squarespace some really great features that they're building, and they're, a multi-billion-dollar company, and they're always wanting to make it better for their customers. You can now send invoices with Squarespace, which is great for service-based businesses. They've got a shop on there. You can have courses on there. You can have membership sites on there. They're coming up with things all the time, and I'm like sort of hearing in the background as well what they're coming before it comes on to the public. But it's just such a great, easy place to use, and great analytics that you can look at. What else? And then you've got like other website platforms that are drag and drop. You've got Wix, you've got Showit, and Wix is probably one of the most well-known. I've got lots of friends that have got product-based businesses that use Wix. I personally don't like it because it's very difficult to make it look as nice on mobile as on desktop if you change something. Showit is much more design-led than most of the other ones. So you'll find lots of designers use it. So I feel like if you're not a designer, it's maybe a bit trickier to use. Though Showit and Squarespace have got really great template shops. And then you've got Kajabi, and I noticed you'll have one of the talks that's coming up at the moment is somebody that's going to be talking about online courses and programs. So I don't know if he'll recommend Kajabi, and I don't want to step on his toes, but Kajabi, I've got so many friends that use Kajabi and love it, and it's an all platform, so you can have a website on there, do your courses and stuff as well. But it's expensive. It's £100 or more a month, so you've really got to invest. And I think if you're just starting as a coach, when you're doing your courses, it's a very high tech, like all singing or dancing platform. And I feel like you could start. Well, Squarespace does all of the things as well. It's got an email system in there as well that you can use, but it's a lot cheaper and it's great. I think it's brilliant, and I host things on there as well, and for clients, I have my email platform on Squarespace now too. Yeah, so
that's definitely what I sort of, I sort of seen sort of the migration to, a lot of these platforms now. They're sort of like it's for a small business or for a solo business. It's sort of everything you need all in one place. Certainly, when I started out back in 2009, I'll leave you all to do the maths, so I'm not going to do that right now. But when I started back in 2009, I had somebody create my website for me. Now, the downside to that was every time I wanted to make a change, I couldn't do it in the moment. I had to send them an email or ask them to do it. Then I had to wait for them to have the time to do it. Then they would change it. So these sort of these opportunities where you can work in platforms like Squarespace and Wix, GoDaddy, all of those, actually it gives you a lot more sort of flexibility. I love the fact that that it is simple without being simplistic. I think that's the thing, isn't it? You get everything that you need, but you don't have to have got a university degree in biomechanics or whatever it is, just to sort of make a website work. So you mentioned about DIY versus hiring a designer. What should coaches consider if they? I mean, I've just already sort of highlighted maybe one of the what I feel personally is the downside of using something like WordPress, because that's where I started. But what are the factors that coaches need to consider when they're deciding whether to build the website for themselves or to hire a professional designer like yourself, or sort of opt for a little bit of a hybrid approach?
Okay, so I would say for DIY, there are two things. It's either you kind of want to have control of it and learn things out, and you quite like tech and you enjoy learning a platform, and you kind of want it for the future to be able to use it. Or it might be budget constraints, which is, a lot of us will choose that option, and that's great. And because there are some great options out there. I know that a lot of all of these platforms that I've just mentioned, they all have templates that you can just go on their website and create a website using one of their pre-designed templates. I think if you're a coach, there are so many web designers like myself out there that have created templates that are specifically for you, that they're not free like they are on the website builders, but they've been designed with you in mind. So you'll find that they've placed images that you might have on a website. So there'll be like a full placeholder image and like maybe of a nature scene at the background, or something that is, an image that a coach might use, or it might be of a person to give you prompts on what imagery you can put in place that is your own imagery. You'll also find on these templates prompts. So it will say, maybe on the banner, tell the people what you do, or like give them a motivating statement that makes them feel excited, like, yes, this is my struggle, this person can help me. So they and I have created templates for you. So if you're going to go down the DIY route, I would say spend a little bit of money and buy a template that works for you and that you like the visual style of it. And know as well that all of these templates, you can change the font and the color of them. So don't be thinking, well, this one's like the fonts are, I love the layout of everything, but I don't like the font or the color. You can change that. Then you've got the hybrid, which is where you've got these templates, but then you can work with the design. Not all template designers have got this. And you just Google, by the way, templates for coaches, Squarespace or Wix or whatever platform you want. And if you don't really mind what platform it is, just type template website for coaches. And you on some of the websites, you'll find that the designer will help you for like a day or half a day to help you sort of get a little bit clearer about what copy to put on there, and they'll upload all of the copy in there for you. They'll do the images, and they'll have maybe live calls with you where they do it. Or you might have some clients that aren't like me, that don't like forward facing with the clients, and they'll have programs where you enter in the prompts, and they'll in like a text system, and then they'll upload it all for you, and you give them the images or tell them what you're looking for, and they'll do it. I've done this a few times with clients maybe that want a bit more help with branding and sourcing images, and they might write their copy in a document, and I'll sort of say, oh, that doesn't quite work, and maybe you should do this, and they get a bit more guidance from the designer. And then you've got the designer working with the designer, which is, of course, you know, it's not budget, but it's varying price ranges. And you'll sometimes find as well, they might have a package on their website that says, you know, this is what you get. Some of them don't say a price. I always have my price on there. But then you might say, well, is there any way that we could do something like a lighter package of this? So don't be put off if the price is not where you want, but you want something a little bit different. I would go to them and just say, is there anything else that you can do? And the thing about working with a designer is, like I said, you have that conversation. It's maybe if you're a bit struggling and you're like, I don't really know what to do. And if you work with somebody like myself that works with lots of coaches, we're very good at helping you with your offers as well. So you might have a coach that helps you with what your offer is, but you don't know how to lay that out on a website. So for instance, you might be like, okay, well, I'm going to be talking my niche, and not all of, you don't have to have a niche, but if your niche is stressed employees in the corporate world and you're helping them with stress, you might have like a service page that is like all about talking about stress and how you deal with this, why you're the expert for it, your own backstory. And then you have at the bottom 3 little boxes say, I do workshops, I do this, I do one-to-one, or I can come into your office. Or you might say, okay, well, I do stress stuff, but I actually just want a service page with 3 boxes, and then you've got a page for each of the boxes that talk to individuals, and I want to talk in more detail. So that's where, like, working with a designer, I found for my coaches, they just struggle with, like, I don't know, what do I put on my about page? Like, how do I write this? And you get like a bit more hand holding if you find the right designer. Some designers, they might not help you with this. They might just want you to write the copy, and they'll go away and design something great for you, and they'll ask for a little bit more information from you, and it's a bit more bespoke. But yeah, just I would go into Google and just say, you know, like website designers for coaches. There's so many of us around, and then you can, you know, emotionally connect with one, because you know, I might not be your person, I might not be in your price range, you know, but it's a really you know, great thing, the internet, for finding people.
It is 100%. And you've been very sort of gracious in sort of talking on a sort of generic terms, and not really 100% about, you know, sort of some of the things that you offer. Now, I know you've put together for all of our students and coaches, qualified coaches, a special sort of affiliate offer. So if people come direct to you, obviously it's a slightly higher rate. You've put together a special offer for our coaches and that here at the Coaching Academy. So Catherine, do you mind just sort of sharing that in the chat box? So Liz has put together a wonderful sort of landing page with some examples of some 3 specific templates that you can either do as a DIY, or you can also have the opportunity of working with Liz as well. So all of that information is on there as well. And as I say, we do choose our affiliate partners really carefully here at the Coaching Academy. Now, I'm not saying that Squarespace is better or worse than any other platform, and I'm sure you heard that directly from Liz as well. For us, it's about the person. And we have worked in partnership with Liz for a really long time. I've worked with her. Some of our ex-students have worked with, or now qualified coaches have worked with her, and she's come very highly recommended. So we want to sort of endorse, if you're looking to upgrade your website or even create a website from the start, please do, you know, take that opportunity of, you've heard what Liz offers, have a look at the landing page there. And as I say, that's a special affiliate link that is only available to Coaching Academy graduates or students. It's not available anywhere else. So that's there as well. And I can say, highly recommend you working with Liz, having done it myself. So, Liz, with all of that in mind, what are some of the common mistakes that you see coaches making when they're setting up their websites?
Okay, so I would say, and this is just like a really minor thing. Okay, so I'll start with this one. Is sometimes you'll find that when I get the copy, it's like first and third person. You sort of flip between the two. So I would be very conscious of what you decide to do. I think if you may be talking to the corporate people, you might want more of a third person. But I always prefer first personally, and it's people like say trends and stuff. But I think like nowadays we want it, you know, they're hiring you. And I also get like a lot of my clients get very in their heads about, should this be a business name? That's like one of the first things we say, or like my name. I always personally prefer your name, because they're like buying from you. But if you are wanting to develop programs or stuff like that, you might want it to be a business name. But don't get too caught up in that. I would also say, when you're doing your copy, to not make it so much about you and to make it about your client. To when you're saying, so who's the type of client that I work with, that might be something you put on there. They are this and they are that, and they're struggling with this at the moment. It needs to be rather than that's the question, it's like, my passion is working with clients like you who are struggling with this, and I know how to help you because I've been there and I've helped these people, you, and make it about them. Because when you're reading it, like I said, when I didn't emotionally connect, it's because I didn't feel like I was being spoken to. So I would definitely recommend that. Think about who you're speaking to. I said this earlier, like, are you speaking to HR or the client? A website I'll share the link with or something later. One of my clients is from like super corporate world. She hosts women's circles for like women in business, like Meta, Google, Yahoo. That Yahoo's her background, and she lives and works in Silicon Valley. Also, she's very interested in plant medicine. So she's like, how do I combine these two things? So that's like, because she had a conversation with me as her designer and she was struggling with what to do. And when I was looking at her website copy and her previous copy, it was much more leaning towards the plant medicine stuff. And I'm like, okay, what do you want to, like, are you coming at this like, I'm passionate about this and this is what I want to do? Or are you like, I want to make some money and I'm really passionate about this, but like, right as I'm starting this business, I want to make a bit more money. And like, so really, so when I was asking her these questions and delving deep in that, we ended up going like, I'm like, Jen, you need to focus on the corporate people. So you need to make your copy more towards them. And then you've got the one page that is talking to the individuals, because that's how we also going through all of this process with her, like deciding how to split this up. And we had corporate and then individuals. And then on the corporate thing, she has 3 pages that speak to the corporate and just 1 individual page. But even then, you know, her copy was quite esoterical. And I was like, we need to, you know, when you tell me about this like lawyer that's like working on the LA wildfires insurance or something, one of her feedback to you was, I kind of read your website, didn't really know what you do, you know, like, you need to tell me tangibly what you do. So when you're saying, you know, the feeling and like how you feel and blah, 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 which is like how you, sorry, I don't mean to say blah, 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 but you know how you teach them and like your methods to teach them, but they don't know that. You need to tell them what you think they want to know. So if you think that they're stressed, you don't need to tell them like do this, this, and this, because that's what they're paying you for. You need to just sort of say, this is your problem, I can help you with it. And having easy call to actions. So like book a call with me, you know, have it like pepper throughout the site, not too much, or like get in contact and contact me. Like I also like there are two factors here, like deciding on whether you're going to put your prices on there. I always prefer prices personally, because sometimes I get nervous if it's like, I don't want to get embarrassed and apply and them not, you know, it's like way above what I can afford. But if you're with corporate, yeah, you don't need to put it on there because they can. But to sort of maybe have a little bit granular, you know, say we have a Zoom call, we have this, and this is what is included in the package. And going back to the lawyer lady, she wanted to say, well, you helped me solve problems when I couldn't get on with a team member. You helped me with that. Like, be very goal orientated for them, is what I would say. And yeah, don't make it about you. And so I've got so many thoughts here. And one final thing is your positioning of your expertise. I find that when you're a new coach as well, and you've come from, you're like, might have a bit of imposter syndrome and think, well, I don't have that much experience, but you've got so much experience. You know, I was telling you before about personal branding. Like, I feel like an expert in my field because I was in fashion, but I saw the evolution of personal branding and I was involved in that. So when you're talking about being able to manage people, or you're intuitive and it's like a lifelong thing, like always on your homepage, have a little about bit about you and like really position yourself as like an expert. And if you've worked for a great company, add that in there because it just immediately elevates you. Like I host every quarter, I do a Squarespace meetup, and there was this older gentleman that came, and he's like I think he said he was in his 70s or something. He's retired and he's traveling the world. And when he came in, there might be people that have preconceived ideas about him, but like immediately, I just loved this. He like positioned himself like you should on a website with like, yeah, I'm from like Silicon Valley and like my nephew does this. So he like sends me stuff because my nephew is like in charge of like, he's got the rights to TEDx in like San Francisco. And immediately you're like, oh, and then he's doing websites. So he's like, I'm traveling the world, but I'm doing these websites. And like immediately he's done like his little elevator pitch. And that's kind of what you want to do. Like yours is great on your website, Sharon, you know, and on anybody's website when you're there, it's that's important.
Oh, Liz, it's just, you know, so many tips, so many ideas and sort of little nuggets for people to take away. We haven't had time to cover all of the things that I wanted to cover, but I know that, you know, you have just sort of so much information to be able to support people with. So if you're looking to change your website up, you know, I moved from WordPress to Wix and then on to Squarespace. If you're looking to start your website from scratch, you can say, I will 100% recommend using Liz, working with her hybrid or one-to-one or on one of her templates as well. As I say, the link is in that chat box. Before you all go, I want to collectively say thank you to Liz and for your time today. Really, really appreciate that. Please do also write down maybe one thing that you're going to action as a result of today's coaching conversation, which is so important. Liz, where can people find you? Where do you hang out on social media so people can connect with you?
Instagram mainly, it's Elizabeth_Ellery. And on my website, I've just put a link in here, but it's probably going to get lost. It's if you go to ElizabethEllery/brand-workshop, and anywhere on there, you'll be able to sign up and get the workshop that I was talking about for the Pinterest. And it also asks you some questions. And then finally, at the bottom of my website, there's a little link that says book a call. And like, for anybody on this call today, if you want to just book like a coffee chat with me, like I said, I'm just really interested in connection as well. I'm not going to upsell you anything, but if you're struggling or you're like saying, I don't know what to do or what my name should be or anything like that, I'm just like quite happy right now to be helping you as much as I can, and we can just have a quick natter. And yeah, I'd love to get to know, you and stuff.
Wonderful. And that is definitely your strength, Liz. You connect in with people, and that's why the websites that you design are so powerful. Thank you, everybody. We've got a little poll that we're going to start sharing at the end of Coaching Conversations. And Catherine, if you want to share that, that would be fantastic. And just so that we get a little bit of a gauge now on how helpful you find our sessions. So we're just scaling on a scale of 1 to 10 how you rate today's session. We would love to know. Obviously 10 being very powerful and 0 being not helpful at all. What's your rating? That's really, really helpful. And thank you so much for joining us here today. Really, really enjoyed it. From me, Catherine, Liz, and the whole team here at the Coaching Academy. Look forward to seeing you next time. Have a great month, and we'll see you again soon. Take care. Bye for
Bye
now.
guys. Bye everyone.